Trevs Hockey Show. I'm the Trev. It's too sweet. Anyway, this is take two. I screwed up at the end, so I have to redo this one. But we're continuing with my division predictions. And the Central, it's always an interesting division in every year. And mostly because you never know if it's a case of 3, 4, or 5 teams in the Central making the playoffs. But this year was 5. And it wasn't necessarily as easy to predict as one would think. There was some tangibles in between, I guess. But either way, if you haven't seen my division prediction video, it's right up here. Let's talk about it. So if you haven't seen the original prediction video or just want to recap, my predictions went a little bit like this. I picked them to win the President's Trophy. And the actual stats went something like this. So if you're keeping score, I predicted 3 right. 1st, 3rd, and 8th. Everything else, let's discuss. They almost had last overall, and I remember when I made the prediction video, if I should have really double picked on who I thought was last overall, but I would have been wrong either way if I'd have picked them. It's interesting to see what's going to happen from this point out when it comes to Arizona, because it's only becoming a joke the more and more you hear about it, and something has to change. You know, on paper, at the beginning of the season, things were looking up for Chicago. You know, I mean, they picked up Fleury, they picked up both the Jones brothers, Caleb and Seth, and then everything started going wrong, and they paid for it on the ice. Hopefully, I mean, with Kane and Taves getting a little bit older and aware that anything can change in a rebuild, it'd be interesting to see what Chicago does as far as making moves. Didn't expect that. Thought they were going to be a little more feisty, a little more competitive. But hey, if their most successful coach in team history says they need a new voice, you know, who are you to argue? Who's anybody to say he's wrong? I mean, and it didn't even help that they brought in Adam Lowry's dad. But we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe there's more than just an actual coaching change. I don't think Lowry's sticking around, but we'll see what happens. Now stop me if you've heard this one before, but Duchesne almost led the team in scoring. If it weren't for Roman Josi, you know, and the play of UC Saros, who they are going to miss in the playoffs since he's out 4 to 6 weeks. But I thought, you know, they were in full-fledged rebuild mode and, you know, play bad on purpose, but maybe they overachieved. You know, maybe they actually played with a purpose this season. Either way, they were a fun team to watch. I just don't know how well they're going to do in the playoffs. Oh, Dallas. I think it was a complete overachieve on their end. I mean, yeah, they were Cup finalists 2 seasons ago, and last year's Cup finalists tanked, but I don't know, unless Dallas gets a really good return in the offseason, because they will be making some trades. Unless they get a really good return, this might be the last time you see an X beside them for a few years. Goaltending's still solid. You know, O'Reilly can still rile up the troops like nobody's business, so he's still doing his job there. It's just a shame that they were only 4 points out of second place. Not that that really hurts their cause at all. And they've only gotten more and more physical since their cup win because they realize the grind that goes into it. But they're still a great team to watch. And then there's Kaprizov. And I guarantee you, I mean, aside from them picking up Fleury at the trade deadline to help out their goaltending situation, with Kaprizov and his supporting cast around him, they could go far. They could even take out number one. I don't have any wood around me to knock on, but they could be scary good for a while to come. And I mean, with Kaprizov going over 100 points and coming close to 50 goals, he'll be exciting. And they could have won the President's Trophy if they didn't decide to go on a losing streak to end the season. And, you know, maybe it was just a case of just playing relaxed to coast out. Maybe the President's Trophy didn't mean so much. But when is their year? Their year has to be soon. I mean, they've been good for years, a few years now. It's time to cash in. It's time for Colorado to be the threat we've been told they were going to be for years now. If not now, when? So aside from first and 8, the rest was pretty much just throw it up in the air and see where it lands. Because that's essentially how the Central works. Your first and your last are always pointed out before the season even begins. And it was a very competitive division outside of 7 and 8. Let's see what happens next season. So I don't know what hockey shows. Oh, thank you for tuning in. Don't think I don't appreciate the gesture, especially if you've made it this far. It's great for both of us. So while you're here, give me a thumbs up and that red button that says subscribe all over it. If you haven't hit it by now, I can only tell you so many times. Subscribing makes you feel good. So hit that thing. You know you want it. All my socials in the description down below. One more division left, and I'm filming it next. But either way, in the meantime, and in between time, be looking for more videos from Trev. Later.